We have our program Powered by Nutrition. And the thing is that we like to do these live calls to help people help themselves. And then anyone who is looking to go, beyond that, like, hey, you know what? I would like to actually have a little help. I'd like to have a program to follow. I'd like somebody to give me the little booklet. In our case, it's videos and walkthroughs and everything. That is the implementation and strategy of what we do, and that's for our clients. But we do have the overall encompassing methodology that we use that we like to share with people. And you can, and then if what you see in our in all of our live streams, we usually are like breaking little pieces down of these 3 different things we're going to basically be talking about today, and they always circle back to that main principles we have there. I see Teresa's here, says good morning. Good morning, Mom. Karen's here. Hey, Karen. Karen says good evening. So she's talking to you, Matt. I know. Hey, right?
Good evening. Thank you. Very nice.
So yeah, so that's basically what we're doing here today. We're going to talk about those methodologies that we make use of. So I do want to I'm going to start with kind of what the post that I posted the other day leading into this, how I got into low carb. And then there was a missing piece to the puzzle that I wasn't figuring out. And of course, my dietitian here, Matt, he knew all about it when I first started talking to him. But for me, doing it on my own back in the day took me a while to figure out. And then I finally stumbled upon it and realized what the real culprit here was. So to give you that answer right now, I think it's okay to give the answer right now, because it's essentially what our methodology, our principles, our strategies, everything that we do in our program to help our clients lose weight is centered around healing these kinds of things. And in particular, this one here. Lindsay says, good morning. Debbie says, good morning. Hey, everybody. Good to have you here. And that is when I first started my low carb journey, I was in it for more energy, less brain fog, those kinds of things. I ended up losing like 40 pounds as a side note, and which was awesome. I focused on eating properly and stuff. Well, it worked well for me. And then, people who I knew started asking me, John, wow, you lost weight quickly and great. How did you do it? So I was like, awesome. Here, look, I did this keto diet thing. And I wasn't like, I was strict keto for a while, but also a little bit, I'd have a few more carbs here or whatever. Like I wasn't tracking ketones like a lot. I didn't have a meter. I just did the urine sticks, Oh, look, I got some ketones in my urine. So there we go. I'm going in and out of ketosis or something. But I gave the low carb strategy to people I knew. And some people would lose weight and some people would not. It wouldn't work for them. And, that goes back to we're all different. And something that Matt said, and I might be jumping the gun for Matt here, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. And he said it to me just yesterday. It's like, just remember, it's easier for men to lose weight a lot of times, right? I mean, it just is. I know you might talk about that, but it is. And what was easy for me wasn't always easy for someone else, especially if they're going through menopause or something. There's a lot of hormonal shifts and stuff. The missing link to the puzzle, okay? I thought it was just all about carbs. Eat less sugar, eat less carbs. And you know what? Eating carbs might have been kind of a catalyst for some of this weight gain and everything, but it's not the root cause of it right now today. It's kind of, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. You're good with the analogies, but Matt, I'm terrible at the analogies. But ultimately, it came around to weight gain very much is about hormones. And one of the key hormones is insulin. And I didn't have a lot of problems with insulin that I know of. I lost the weight very quickly. And if you have any kind of insulin resistance, then just dropping your carbs isn't always going to fix it for you. Because, there's a lot of people that come to us, Matt, that they do low carb and they're still not losing weight. So it's not always just about eating less carbs. Sometimes there's other things going on. And it could be thyroid. It could be other things like that. So what, and Teresa says age matters. Yeah. And also what can matter too, Matt, I'm going to ask you this one. Does it make a difference if you like gain the weight quickly and then you can lose weight easier than if like you gained weight over decades, slowly and slowly and slowly? Now is it easy to lose the weight? Is there a
I would
difference?
usually say that, first of all, weight loss is possible for absolutely everyone. Uh, I would actually say that the more you've yo-yoed throughout the years, the more difficult it might be because you've destroyed your thyroid. And so in that case, you would have to go under like a certain kind of autoimmune thyroid program, which I can provide, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you're just going through nutrition and food, it won't work. And you're going to find yourself eating 1,200 calories and not losing weight, and you're going to want to pull your hair out. Also, I know this is going to, it's very up in the air sometimes, but I see it's a little bit easier when someone gained the weight in adulthood, because they knew what it was like to be a healthy child. When I have someone that's been chubby their entire life, you're not only dealing with an excess of weight, but the body has no foundation of health to base its health, to base itself off of. So someone that, was skinny and then let themselves go during the pandemic, or, got a new job and they just ate more and whatever. If the body knows what it's like to be skinny, and it knows that it can go back to that set point because it understands that. And this is all metaphorical.
Sure.
I'm just making, I'm not sure if metaphor is the right word for this, but the body understands. When I get someone in front of me and they've been sick their whole life, it's harder because you have to build a brand new immune system that has never been built before because they never had one because they've been sick their whole life, or a brand new nervous system, or they have to build, a new autonomic nervous system, or you just have to build because there's no health foundation that body knows of. And so you have to set it up and you have to feed all of these, systems, and it takes longer. They do lose weight. I don't want to say easily, but getting to completely healthy is a longer journey for them. Weight loss is generally about the same in some aspects. It's very individual, from person to person. But with all of that, when someone doesn't have a solid base for health, then it usually takes a little bit longer, and it takes a very attentive practitioner to help establish that healthy person.
Yeah. And done in a certain way, like that's why I say this is our methodology we're talking about today, but there is a strategy involved in weight loss and how to apply. I suppose that's a better way to say it. There's a certain way to apply the knowledge, and that's something that you did very well. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. So, okay. Why don't we go ahead and start with the first core kind of principle that we make use of. And I do want to say, if you're here, say hello in the comments if you haven't already, so we know you're here. It's always good to know who's watching, and ask questions. It doesn't even have to be about necessarily what's here today. We could talk about, if you have a question about some other thing with the low carb that you're doing or something, we're here to provide feedback. That's why we give this time every Tuesday. But Chris says hello. Awesome. So, okay. Number one, Matt, what's our number one thing that we look at in Powered by Nutrition for our clients?
Would it be
The three core? So like number one,
so number
right?
one being low carbohydrate.
Low carbohydrate diet. Yeah. So why are we doing low carb versus low fat?
So low carbohydrate in general is an easier basis. It's a lot easier to eliminate toxic foods because that's where a lot of toxicity can be stored. It would be through carbohydrate-rich sources, and eliminating that puts you into a low carbohydrate type of diet. When you get into high carb foods, you get into sugar, you get to flour, you get to just like a lot of these processed like chips, crackers, popcorn, grains.
Mm-hmm.
You get into that area, and I have never been successful getting someone healthy um, with, a high carb diet. High carb diet will help you build muscle mass for a bodybuilder. That's a different story, and that's a different scenario. A
Mm-hmm.
bodybuilder, hang on, an individual won't be a bodybuilder if they are that sick. Their body won't tolerate bodybuilding, and their body won't tolerate the carbohydrates. So, if you are, if you're fat and sick, you have to address the fat and sick before you address the bodybuilding. Um, and, addressing the fat and sickness, you have to reduce the carbs to, a more desirable, controlled manner. And that goes into along the lines of like earning your carbs. And so if you are abusing carbs on a day-to-day basis when you haven't earned them, well, your consequence, if you're in a calorie excess, would be weight gain and insulin resistance and, metabolic inflexibility and just general inflammation and overall health issues. So this is why we go into, more of a low carbohydrate approach for the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and again, addressing like insulin does it doesn't seem like to me a higher carbohydrate diet, low fat diet is really addressing insulin that much, right?
So a high carb diet will use a lot more insulin, and the more you use insulin, the more you use your car, the easier it is for it to break. So, a car doesn't break if you're not using it as much. If you're using it just for groceries, down the street, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're all over the world, all over the US, your car is going to run into a ditch. Well, not necessarily, but like you're just going to run it into the ground, and it's going to be like, I'm done working. You haven't given me a vacation, so it's just going to stop working. Same thing for the insulin. If you overuse your insulin through an excess of carbohydrates, well, you're going to run into some problems, and you're going to need to give your car a break, replace its oil, and we give the insulin a break by not eating carbohydrates at the same amount that we were eating beforehand. And so that transitions the diet into less carbohydrates. That means we're eating more meats, proteins, fats, and more seasonally available foods, so the insulin can take a break, it can heal, and then it can work again when necessary.
So, I mean, what it sounds like you're alluding to there is possibly somebody having insulin resistance, and we're trying to heal that. In a nutshell, can you please describe, because some people might not know exactly what insulin resistance is. What is that?
Okay, so I do have my own, I have an analogy for everything. This is my
I
favorite.
love it. I love it.
Yeah, so insulin resistance. So insulin is, I have it, hang on. So this is your cell, this little cup. It's empty, obviously. You have insulin, which is the doorkeeper. And with this doorkeeper that is insulin, it's going to see, you guys are going to look at what European money. So this is a €2 piece of money. This is glucose. So this is sugar. This should be starch, sugar, anything from grains or, just a simple carb. This glucose comes down and it says, hi, insulin, I'd like to get into the cell. And insulin says, I usually use some profanity here, but I usually say, hey, bug off. I'm tired. I can't let you in because I'm done working for the day. My shift is done.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's insulin resistance. The the glucose can't get in. When the glucose can't get in, you get eventually, imagine like this is your bloodstream. This is where the glucose is. This bloodstream gets filled with all this glucose and all the sugar, and then you have you get the onset of diabetes because you've got just a lot of free-floating sugar
Has nowhere to go.
in the blood that has nowhere to go because the insulin's like, go away. I'm not working. I can't work anymore because the insulin is resistant to working. The insulin resisting work. And the insulin is sensitive, which is what we like. Insulin sensitive, good. Insulin resistance, bad.
Mm-hmm.
When the insulin is sensitive, Mr. Glucose comes around, and it could be from white rice, or it could be the glucose from broccoli, or from carrots, because carrots are a carb-rich source from a vegetable. When your insulin is sensitive, your glucose or your starch comes on down, and it says, hey, Mr. Insulin, can I get in? Yeah, of course, get into the party. And then all of a sudden your body can use, this cell now has currency, and now has the ability to use these 2 euros, for energy, and it can do stuff. It can, move around. It can, use that energy. And a lot of the times you get people that have issues using carbohydrates for energy because their insulin isn't working and the glucose can't get into the cell to, work its magic.
Yeah.
And so this is how insulin sensitivity and insulin resistance comes into play. It's very simplistic, and it's so complex. It is so complex. But in layman's terms, this is what we understand so far.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That was beautiful. And yeah, great analogy. Right. Yeah, that's the thing too, is like we made our core principle number one was the low carb diet, because that whole insulin thing going on there, and what you just said about glucose, one of the ways to heal it is to just chill out on trying to bombard that cell with lots of sugar, right?
Right.
And
Right.
just let it all chill out a little bit. And like you said, it's very complex, and there's other things that can go into it as well, which kind of leads us to core principle number 2 that we do, which is, in our program, we not only focus on less carbs, but we also focus on healthy nutrition, on a healthy nutritional diet, nutrient-dense diet. It is so important. And I would venture to say that you agree with me here, Matt, that in many cases, that could even be more important than just a low-carb diet itself. Nutrient-poor low-carb diet, or nutrient-dense, but maybe not as low-carb. Probably that one B, right? The second one. Well, it depends on the situation, maybe, but I don't know. What do you think?
It always depends on the situation. If
Yeah.
you've got a certain kind of like disease that you're working on, like for example, when someone has like nerve problems, they need a lot of B vitamins. And so in that case, they would need just, like a B complex, and then, dark leafy greens for their folate, but also like there are other B vitamins from, meats. Gosh, that's really complex, because sometimes people, if your main culprit is Mr. Insulin, then the macros, so the eliminating the carbs, is probably one of the more important aspects of the diet. But if you're working on like neuropathy, or if you're working on like a skin condition, or if you're working on a digestive thing, or cravings, or anything else, then nutrient density is another key that you can use. You could probably get away with being a little bit more lenient, not high, but lenient in your carbohydrate consumption, if you are providing enough nutrients to the body to function. When the body has enough nutrients in it, the body functions properly. There's a relatively newish concept of hypervitaminosis, which is too many vitamins in the body. And that comes up when people like only eat like they stuff their face with like supplements and they have a nutrient dense diet. Like it's overkill and the body's like, I got all these things and I got nowhere to put it. And then it freaks out.
Yeah.
So it's about having the right amount of nutrients and the right balance of the carbohydrates with the fats and proteins to get, where you're wanting to be. If what you're doing isn't working, then one of those levers would be the lever that I would, go to. If you're like, not reducing your carbs too far, try reducing your carbs. If your carbs are already super low, but nothing's working, you probably need a little bit more nutrient density in there, and you go the other way around. So there are things you can consider to help move the needle a little bit farther.
That's great. And that is also why we incorporate two things there, which is low carb and a nutrient dense, because it could be something, I mean, it might be like you were kind of saying, maybe it's something in the gut and that nutrient dense diet can help to heal the gut. You can do a low carb diet that's a very nutrient poor low carb diet and not heal the gut. You'll have less sugar in you. That's great. But so that's why we do want to incorporate they say health. You hear people say healthy keto, healthy low carb. But there's very specific kind of foods that we like in our program that we like people that is absolute green light. Eat this. We have the no hunger, don't be hungry diet, right? We don't like people being hungry. We want you to eat, and eating also, like eating to satiety and everything, can help you to not have some of those cravings that you might have. Where if you do like just low calories and eat very little food, then it's always hungry. And who wants to do that?
Yeah, a lot of the times when this actually happened 2 days ago. I had someone, it was a mutual friend come up to me. They were just in my entourage, and he's like, yeah, I have like type 2 diabetes. This is an older guy. He's like in his 50s, and he's pretty big. He's got the insulin thing on his arm, and he goes, and I told him that I'm a chronic disease dietitian nutritionist, and that I work with diabetes, and if ever he needs like just guidance, he can always come to my office, and we can chat. He goes, yeah, I know, I eat too much. And I said, stop. You don't eat too much. You actually don't eat enough. And this is the problem. People are telling you that you don't eat, that you eat too much. No, you don't eat enough food for what your body needs. And the result is diabetes. And that's the main problem, is that people think diabetes is people who are just eating too much. No, diabetes is severe nutrient deficiency to the point where the body falls apart. If you go into the literature, you will see that diabetes, it is not just like excess of carbs. You have almost all of your B vitamins are deficient. Usually your iron, usually your zinc, usually your magnesium, usually your potassium, usually your, hang on, I'm going through the list in my head. You have a boatload of nutrient deficiencies, which are caused through eating too many nutrient poor foods. Your diet sucks. And that's why you need to revamp. It's time to wake up, and you need to eat the nutrient dense foods that your grandma would give you. Scratch it. Your great grandmother would give you. If your great grandmother wouldn't recognize what's on your plate, don't eat it. It doesn't have to be complex, but people have this weird perception of what food should be like today because we have the government in our ear all the time saying, don't eat too much saturated fat. Cholesterol is bad for you. Sugar is bad for you. Salt's bad for you. Well, hang on. We survived as a species because of how important salt and saturated fat are. I got to tell you, every wild animal, they are salt scavengers, they eat saturated fat, they eat, all of these like important foods that we are so out of touch of reality that, I get people in front of me, they're just like, I just don't know what to do anymore. I'm just so lost. And I'm like, listen, little by little, pull the processed food out of your diet and it will turn around. And like, I don't have to say, my favorite is eat as if you're on a farm.
Yeah.
And it just, when I say that, people just say, oh, the light bulb goes off. And they're like, oh, what? What? And you get the gears turning. It's a lot harder to actually do because they need a lot of hand holding because they don't know how to do it. And that's, part of the reason why we have a program. But that's also the reason why there's such a big problem today with the health of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. It's kind of like what you said before. It really is simple, but it's not always easy.
Yeah.
That once you get the hang of it, you don't even think about it. Like I don't count carbs. I don't count my ketones. I don't count calories. At this point, I've been doing it a while. In the beginning, I did look at how many carbs was I eating per day and stuff. But you get to a point, and you can get there quickly, of just knowing. You just know that's not something, and then you just watch your body. How do you feel when you eat certain foods, and okay, so I'll go to the questions here real quick, and then we'll talk about our third principle that we make use of. Lindsay says, so she knows that snacking isn't necessarily recommended when you're on a like a low carb on a weight loss protocol. Do you have any advice for people who, when they can't eat a meal, they can't sit down and have a meal, they're on the go or something? Is there like a thing to hold them over until they can sit down and have a meal, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, that is, and so like that's where 21st century life gets in the way. I always tell people, do your best. If you can't, like, I'm not gonna like, but do your best. If you have to snack, fine. That's fine. Bring an on-the-go thing that's gonna fill you. And so I usually recommend that people try to do like one of those like keto fat bombs. And those usually really help. Obviously with like good ingredients.
Yeah, good ingredients. Mm-hmm.
But what's also helpful is going to the grocery store and getting like a can of tuna, and then okay, personally, my favorite is going to the deli and I just get like 6 slices of ham.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's a lot, but I tell you, I'm good. Like, and that's all I need. And like, maybe I'll grab like some random vegetable or like one of those like packaged, like shredded salad things. And I'll do that. But like, this doesn't have to be hard. Like if you're on the go, there are a lot of resources and
Stick to
there are a
beef
lot of
jerky.
things. Yeah,
Take a little
beef
thing of
jerky.
nuts. You can
Yeah,
do a little mixture of
just
nuts. Mm-hmm.
exactly. If you know that you're going to have a big day in front of you, eat a big breakfast. If you're going to have like a big activity in front of you, making sure that you're prepping for that day, don't get stuck in the I have to intermittent fast section. What's important is that if you are, only at home from like, 7 to like 8 a.m. and then you're gone for the entire day, you're not going to intermittent fast. That's dumb. Eat your full meal in the morning. And by the time you get back from work, at 7 p.m. or wherever, because people are busy, this is normal. Then you have your second big meal, and people just do 2 big meals per day. And that's fine. That's honestly, that's enough. And then when you're on your way up, you have like 3 hard-boiled eggs like in a baggie, or like some like beef jerky, or like you got like carrot sticks, or
If
you've
you like
got
celery, you bring celery. Or
exactly, like you don't. This doesn't have to be rocket science, but it doesn't have to be wrapped in a tortilla. It doesn't have to be, a wrap. It doesn't have to be rice. It doesn't have to be noodles or
Yeah.
whatever kind of carb source you love.
And the more, if you're active at work too, then, you can have a few more carbs in the
If
little
you're
thing that
running
you bring to
around,
work or
yeah.
something.
If you're running
Um,
around, you've earned your carbs. You can have a
mhm.
little bit more.
So a couple other questions here, and then we will get to our core principle number 3 here. Um, let's see. Judy says, can you do the keto lifestyle long-term or not a good idea? I am almost to my goal weight and thought when I get there going from 30 carbs per day to 50 for maintenance.
Um, I have been low carb for 5 years, maybe longer. And I have clients, I have people that, through epilepsy or through, you can be in ketosis for your entire life and that will never be a problem. Never. Ketosis is a lifelong, safe program that you can do. When you hit your goal weight or when you hit your end goal, what's nice is that you know what it took to get there. And so if you do allow yourself more carbohydrates, which is allowed, you're your own person. You are allowed to say, hey, I hit my goal weight. I can have a fresh summer peach that's juicy and delicious and some like Greek yogurt. Like that's like, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Um, and all you have to do is just keep, and I'm not saying keep tabs, but just pay attention to like what your habits are doing and how things are drifting. And if you overshoot and if weight starts coming back on, well, thank God you knew what it took to get to your goal. And you just have to reboot. You have to rewind, reel it in,
Mm-hmm.
and then reduce your carbs, bring in more of the healthy fats, bump up the protein, say goodbye to like the fresh fruit, just, you have to just uh, know when you're allowed to have a bigger carb limit from, compared to when you can't. People that have not hit their end goal should not allow themselves those kinds of breaks because they're not ready for them yet and they
Yeah.
haven't, the reward system in the brain works differently. If you hit minus 20 pounds, fantastic, get yourself a present. That is not food.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to keep going. If you feel like you need a diet break, which is entirely possible, uh, don't feel bad about ramping up your calories for 2 weeks. And I say calories. I'm not saying carbs. I'm saying calories. Enjoy. Eat your food. If you've been in a calorie deficit for a long time, that is not something that's going to keep you healthy. You have to feed your body and feed your systems because by eating more food, you get more nutrition in, you prep the body to lose more weight afterwards as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Debbie says, is ketones in the urine a healthy thing?
Yep.
Yeah, yep, that's perfectly fine. And that's one way of measuring if if you have ketones in the blood. um, and let's see here. So, got a couple others. I think Tess says, I eat a lot of salads because I have problems with meats, sauces, etc. I can eat meat if shredded on salad, but people are always saying I don't eat enough or get enough nourishment. Any ideas? My thing just popped down. Any ideas what I can do to get more nutrients? Well, first of all, Tess, I would say, who are the people giving you the nutritional advice? I mean, are they are they anybody who knows what really is nourishing your body and whatnot? Because I know some people tell me to go eat fiber-rich bread to nourish my body. But assuming that, maybe they're onto something and you're worried about it, then how can you, so you eat a lot of salads. So I can maybe add something here. And then if you want, Matt, because I actually eat a lot of salads too. Um, I I add in, so it all depends, of course, with nuts and seeds and stuff, if they're reactive to you or not. For me, I'm okay with certain nuts and seeds. So I put in like some pumpkin seeds, some what's the other one? Sunflower seeds, and in different vegetables. So I'll saute up some zucchini or something and garlic and onions, and I'll saute that stuff up and I'll put it in my salad with meat left over from last night, like chicken from last night or something like that. I use olive oil on there to drizzle over there to give a little more fat, a little healthy fat and stuff. Sometimes I'll take nutritional yeast and I'll put a little bit of that on there. That might not be for everybody. But I don't know. Do you have anything to say in regards to what she's saying there, Matt?
So beef is actually like, I love red meat, but there are other options out there. And to be honest, I don't eat that much beef. I eat a lot of poultry. I eat pork, poultry, fish. Oh my God, I eat so many eggs. I love eggs. Eggs are like my favorite. So don't feel like you have to have beef. You can do other red meats. You can do lamb. You can do goat. You can do venison. The world is your oyster. You can have oysters. You can do shrimp. You can do salmon. You can do trout. You can do tuna. You can literally. You don't have to have beef. You can have there are other options, and having a good recipe really helps. And so I encourage you to find the recipe that you really, really like and use it all the time. Eat it as much as you want, because a good recipe is going to keep you going.
So I'm going to just mention our third core principle in our program, which we call Powered by. If you're new here, welcome, first of all. But our program is called Powered by Nutrition, and that is where we give people a protocol for weight loss and everything like that. So I'll mention the third principle here real quick, and then there are a few other questions. And because we're running short on time, I would like to be able to get to the questions. The third principle, of course, is incorporating some intermittent fasting when people are ready. And we have a few live streams we've done just on intermittent fasting. So if that's something you want to learn a little more about, you can go back to those. But we tell people in our program, about when to incorporate that. Not everyone's ready for it right away. So just to sum that up real quick, it was in our program, our general methodology is a low carb diet, a nutrient dense diet, and then incorporate a little intermittent fasting in there as well. And these things, when it's kind of like with weight loss, and now we're just going to drop all the nuclear bombs on it to make it work. You could try just doing a little bit of less carbs. You could try maybe, hey, I'll just try a paleo diet that's just, doesn't have sugar in it or something, but you still eat higher carbs. Well, maybe those things work, maybe they don't work. But what we try to do is let's give our best chance to make it work today, so you're not struggling for the next 12 months trying to figure it out. Mm. And then we can go to some of that maintenance stage that Matt was just talking about there. Debbie had said, so she asked a question about the ketones in the urine, and she said she asked that question because Google had said something different. All the ketones in the blood means is that there's ketones, like your body is burning fat and is breaking down the fat into ketones, and what ketones you're not using are being just excreted through the urine. And it's one way to measure if your body is breaking down fat. Now, if you're talking about ketoacidosis, that's another thing. That's where you've got too much going on. And we're not talking about that here. That's a whole medical issue, which people, I believe.
Ketoacidosis is when you have high ketones and high blood glucose. You can't have both at the same time. Yeah. If you have high ketones in the body, normally, under normal circumstances, you should have low blood glucose. I had a client earlier today. Her ketones were at 7.
Wow.
Which is impressive.
For reference, around 3 is good.
And her blood glucose was at it was actually pretty low. And I actually told her to increase her protein and some of her carbs, but her blood sugar was at 35. So it's a seesaw.
Mm-hmm.
High ketones, low blood sugar, high blood sugar, zero ketones. If you have both, then you're going to the hospital.
Yeah.
But usually when you go into this diet, if you're not eating carbohydrates, I honestly, I don't see ketoacidosis unless if you're diabetic. So I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. Like type 1 diabetes is a big one you watch for, right?
Yeah.
So Jennifer asks a great question. How does high protein help you burn fat?
That's a
He
good
he
question.
likes that one. Protein's a good one.
So high protein helps you burn fat because protein, in order for it to be metabolized in the body, it uses up more energy. That sounds complex. So let's say you eat uh, carbs. Carbs are easily metabolized. It costs you $1 to metabolize carbs. If you eat fat, fat is also it's relatively easy. So let's say that it costs you, maybe about 150. It's a little bit harder, but it's not the same as carbs. Protein, it's going to cost you $3. You have $3 whole to metabolize protein. This is just an analogy.
Yeah.
Protein costs more to the body to metabolize. And so you rev up your metabolism and you burn more calories sitting there doing nothing because you're eating more protein. A high protein diet is often associated with weight loss because you have revved up your inner furnace because you're burning more. And that's why people like high protein diets, because they generally they just burn more energy as a base. That being said, I never have any issues with high protein diets. Uh, if you have to be in ketosis, it might stop you from getting into true ketosis, but it's usually never really a problem for me. And anyone that says I'm concerned about kidneys for the protein intake, tell them to go read a book because they're 40 years stuck in the past. That is a concept that is way outdated. And the only real concern for protein would be if you have actual kidney disease. If you have kidney disease, then you have to be in very severe ketosis, and you have to have restricted protein, restricted carbs, and almost only fat in your diet. And that's another subject for another day.
Yeah.
But high protein, fantastic. Helps you lose weight and gets you more muscle. The more muscle you have on your body, the higher your metabolic rate and the more calories you burn just sitting there doing nothing. So eat your protein.
And something that some people who are new here might not know about you is that you are very much into sports nutrition. So, you know a lot about that kind of stuff with building the muscle and what athletes need to do and everything like that. I know you've written so many papers and guided and coached people. And yeah. So Deanne says, I eat a lot of vegetables and protein. Is it possible to eat too many vegetables? Would you say, Matt, well, part of your answer to that would be sometimes you need to eat the right vegetables?
Yeah, definitely. So it depends on what kind of vegetables you're eating. What vegetables carry that meat or other animal products don't carry is fiber. And fiber is inert and it is like roughage. So if you grab a piece of you were to crumple it up, it's my little kitchen towel, and you were to pass it through a system, the higher vegetable load can cause more distension in the gut, and it can cause bloating, it can cause indigestion. And so usually what I tell people is, I'm not sure, because this is all individual. What you have to do is you have to experiment. You take your base and you decrease your vegetable amount that you're eating, and you see for a week, and you see if you feel better. If you feel better, then great. Then you need less. If you increase and you feel better, then great. Then you need more. Then that's fine. It's totally fine. It's totally up to you. What I will say is that don't eat raw vegetables. And I'm probably going to get a little bit of, people going, what? No raw vegetables? I can't eat raw carrots? No. It's
Hmm.
very, very hard on the digestive system to digest. If you are not eating that until it's mush, your intestines, your stomach, the whole system has to break it down for you. And shame on you for putting your intestines through that, because your intestines do not have teeth. And if you're eating raw carrots and eating salad, that's way different. If you're eating fibrous, hard vegetables, raw cauliflower, raw broccoli, raw carrots, absolutely not. If you
Hmm.
have digestive distress, absolutely not. That's way too hard on your system, and it's not ancestrally consistent. We never ate raw carrots, raw anything, unless if it was fermented for like weeks. So no, usually if you want to eat more veggies, you have to just cook them longer so you can have more. That's about it.
Perfect. Jennifer says, love the analogy. Thank you. Um, Deanne says cabbage, bell peppers, mushrooms, lettuce, spinach, onions. Um, and she says she always likes to saute and bake. So that's good. Um, awesome, guys. So Matt, the analogies, killing it, man. You're killing it with the analogies, right? I mean, give it up for Matt with the freaking analogies. Like, I'm always like, how does a car fit with a map with a person driving? And but um, so, look, Matt's my dietitian. He's our dietitian here. I have a lot of knowledge, a lot of book knowledge and everything. I have experience as well, but he actually, he has clients, he sees in person and has coached people through things. I've coached family and friends. Matt's done that, but also done actual clients. And so that's where we got together here and we put together our program Powered by Nutrition. And, we kind of put ourselves, we put ourselves into it. I even talk some of the mindset stuff. I know some of you are new here. And I know Matt's into mindset too, but like you guys know, like I've talked about meditation, I've talked about visualization, I talk about changing your personal identity and all that stuff. Well, we try to bring that stuff kind of in together. And that's where we have our program. It's called Powered by Nutrition. And if you would like to not try to figure all of this out on your own for the next several months, like next 12 months or whatever, we can show you right now today, literally today, we can give you the protocol that we have and start working through it and have back end support whenever you need us. We can be there. We have a private Facebook group just for clients that you can post anytime and ask us a question. And if you would like to look into that, there's a link. I put it in the comment section there below. And you can also just go to, it's mylowcarbcoach.com/message. And that will take you to a page, a video of me up at the top, telling you kind of what's on the form and stuff. And essentially that form will send me an email, and I will take a look at that. And then I'll set up a discussion with you, myself, maybe it'll be Matt, maybe it'll be my wife, Lindsay. She's part of our company here as well, or someone else from our team. Will get together with you and talk about your situation and see if what we teach is going to result in a success for you, because we want to make sure if you come aboard, we're not wanting to just sign up any and everybody. It's not just, hey, let's just throw this out there and hopefully it works for some people, but we make money. It's not about that. It's about how can we have something that benefits us, but will benefit you 10 times more than it benefits us. And we want to gate that. We want to make sure you're a good fit. So I'd like to have a conversation with you. If you would like to look into joining our program, you can tap that link that I put in the comment section there, mylowcarbcoach.com/message. And yeah, send us a message and we'll set that up. All right. And, we'll follow through with you, for the next several months. Make sure you get to where you need to be and everything. It's not just hey, here's a little recipe book, go figure it out. It's not like that. We showcase in our program, we showcase a whole nutritional plan for you, what you can buy at the grocery store, what you should maybe hold off on for right now. We showcase things that you don't want to get right now. Even some things might be technically kind of low carb or something, but maybe you don't want those things right now, right? We talk about a nutrient dense diet paired with a low carb diet, paired with when you're ready and when to know when you're ready, doing some intermittent fasting, how long to do it. And we do little pop-up trainings every now and then as well, because there's more to health that goes into, great health and everything than just eating low carbs and stuff. But we don't want to give everything all at once. The whole thing with it, the whole program is designed to give you only what you need to know right now, not to give you overwhelm. Because Matt, when I started, I was listening to audiobooks, I was reading books, I checked out things on Facebook, I read blogs, I had listened to podcasts, I had all this information, and I had no way of organizing it.
Focus. Yeah.
It was just so much. And you have people who are more advanced who are saying, yeah, do these things, do these things, do these things. Well, that's great for the person who is where they're at right now, right? Our program is designed specifically for the person who is really for women trying to lose weight, who probably have gone through hormonal changes, and we're wanting to heal these hormones so that we can bust through some of these weight stalls. Because these darn weight stalls, man, you go on, tell me if this is not what the normal is. I want to lose weight. I switched to a different kind of diet. I lost weight for a little while and then it stopped. That's almost the case every time. And the reason why is, well, when you change your diet, you usually change to something a little healthier than what you were doing before. But then when you lose that little bit of healthier than before, what you hit is now you're hitting the root problem, the root cause of why you're not losing weight. What is it? Is it, is it insulin? Is it thyroid? Is it something else? Those are the things then that the work needs to come in. And it doesn't have to be difficult. You just have to know what to do. And that's why I brought Matt in, because he was able to design it really well. So thank you so much for everyone being here. Tess says you guys are amazing for helping people. Thanks for caring. And God bless. Yeah, absolutely. We really do care. It means a lot to me. I know it means a lot to Matt when we can make a difference in somebody's life, whether they're a client or not a client. And Lindsay says, hey, spread the word. That's great, Lindsay. Yeah, spread the word. If you know someone else who could benefit from our program or anything, tell them to email us. Tell them to join our group and we might be able to help them out. All right. So with that, I do want to say next week, we will be taking a 1-week hiatus on live stream. It is next week, right? Yeah, next week. So next week, we'll probably have some posts in the group and stuff, but I'll do an announcement too, just make sure everybody knows there'll be no live stream. But thanks so much for being here, everybody. I hope you have a beautiful week. We will talk to you soon and take care. Matt, you have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye, everybody.